Smart Travels is a grand tour of the old world, the people, places, sights, and distinctly European flavors. Our host is travel writer and columnist Rudy Maxa, Public Radio's original savvy traveler. Now, tips, trips, and secret places on Smart Travels.
With death-defying cliffs and beaches that shimmer like jewels, the Italian Riviera is as beautiful a coastline as you'll find anywhere in Europe. And it was along this coast that centuries ago, Italy's city-states garnered their wealth, thanks mainly to prime waterfront real estate. We're starting in Genoa for a taste of old-world elegance, traveling south to the resort areas of Portofino and the Cinque Terre, and ending up in the home of Italy's vertically challenged tower, Pisa. Genoa is busy and cosmopolitan. It's hugely popular with cruise ships, and on the surface it looks like a typical sprawling city. But if you look beyond the modern facade, you'll see plenty of remnants of its old-time wealth and grandeur. As a journalist, I travel a lot, but I often don't have much spare time. So when I visit a foreign city like Genoa, I don't try to see everything. Instead, I try to focus on the very best the city has to offer. I hit the highlights, but I also like to taste the local culture, both present and past. For a view of the old city walls, we're hopping a funicular that's a favorite with locals. From this lookout, we can see an outline of the old city's fortresses. The sturdy walls that fortified Genoa are the second longest in the world, next to the Great Wall of China, and they saw plenty of action. With the collapse of the Roman Empire, Italy was fragmented into smaller city-states. When they weren't battling invaders from the rest of Europe, they were busy fighting among themselves. Beginning in the 13th century, Genoa engaged in fierce struggles with Venice and Pisa for domination of Mediterranean trade. Genoa soon became a major maritime player. Genoa's historic center is concentrated into narrow, winding streets that are closed to traffic. It makes exploring on foot irresistible. Cathedral San Lorenzo was the heart of medieval Genoa's political and religious life. As early as the 12th century, all the city's big events happened here: ceremonies, proclamations, and elections. The black slate and white marble that's so common in this part of Italy embellishes the Grand Cathedral inside and out. San Lorenzo is a storehouse for treasures seized from the Holy Land by medieval merchant sea captains. Perhaps the most intriguing part is the Chapel of John the Baptist. The claim is that it holds not only John the Baptist's ashes, but also the plate on which his head was served to Salome, and a chalice that was part of the dinner service during the Last Supper. A British shell landed on the cathedral during World War II, but miraculously failed to explode. Around just about every corner, we're reminded that Genoa is the birthplace of Christopher Columbus. Thanks to the city's most famous son, much of the gold seized by Spain from the New World found its way to Genoa's harbor. Ironically, Columbus's journeys to the New World eventually led to the decline in the city's wealth and status. As trade shifted from the Mediterranean to the Americas, Genoa's power dwindled. But while the good times lasted, Genoa reigned supreme. Some of the city's leading families amassed huge fortunes. In the 16th century, Genoa's elite began building extravagant homes, flaunting their newfound wealth. Now called Via Garibaldi, this was once known as Golden Street. 13 palaces sprang up here in a period of just 10 years. Genoa's upper crust hoped to escape the cramped conditions in the medieval town center and complemented their estates with expansive courtyards and colorful frescoes. Today, most of these palaces have been converted to banks or galleries. My favorite palace is just a few blocks off of Via Garibaldi.
Finding a specific address in Genoa can be challenging. Here's a tip. There are two sets of numbers. Red is for commercial establishments, black for residences and office buildings.
Palazzo Reale dates to the 17th century and boasts extravagant Rococo rooms now used to display artwork. It was originally built as a home for the Balbis, a wealthy Genoan family who made a killing in the silk trade. The palace was later purchased by Italian royalty. Flemish painter Anthony van Dyck, who was close friends with the Balbi family, painted this portrait of Katrina Balbi. Much of the furniture is preserved from Genoa's golden age, hinting at the style to which the city's aristocracy had become accustomed. The ballroom on the upper floor is especially decadent. This mirrored gallery will look familiar to Francophiles. It was modeled after the Hall of Mirrors at Versailles. Tour boats glide regularly along Genoa's waterfront, and it's a fun way to see the hard-working harbor. It's obvious that the city's fortunes are still inextricably linked to the sea. Perhaps it's Genoa's seagoing history that accounts for its independent spirit. Genoa, like other Italian city-states, was a battleground for French, Spanish, and Austrian imperialism. In the mid-18th century, the Austrian army invaded the city, looting goods and abusing the locals. The Genoese managed to fight off the intruders only with rocks. It was a brief but satisfying victory. A century later, the growing nationalistic movement would ultimately unify Italy.
Genoa is terrific, but the clock is ticking and I'm ready to escape the big city crowds. Time to experience the Riviera sweet life. Even if you just have a few days downtime in Genoa, total relaxation's just a few minutes away. Like a watercolor painting, the hues of the Riviera are a palette for the eye. Pastel fishing villages and shorelines that radiate sunlight entice travelers seeking respite from city traffic and noise. This is the kind of time-forgotten setting that most of us dream we'll find when we head for the Italian coast. We're traveling south to Portofino, the ultimate in seaside resort towns. Portofino is as romantic as a picture postcard. 19th century artists were drawn to this port for its unparalleled beauty. Later, the rich and stylish found secluded Portofino ideal for illicit rendezvous. Hollywood types like Ingrid Bergman and Humphrey Bogart also retreated here to escape the prying lenses of the paparazzi. Today, Portofino is not exactly a secret. Day-tripping tourists prowl the streets, and the small harbor is like a club for international chic. You'll see yachts here flying flags from every corner of the world. The town square is perfect for sipping cafe and people watching. Throughout history, Italians have shown a natural talent for laying out towns for maximum visual appeal. Take Portofino, for example. The village streets aren't in a geometric plan. Instead, the buildings and monuments in this town form an artistic composition.
streets wind into a central plaza, drawing people together and creating a sense of community. Around each corner are unexpected perspectives and angles that just somehow seem right. For the ultimate in starry-eyed luxury, the place to stay in Portofino is Hotel Splendido. Perched on a hilltop, the hotel tempts with sumptuous suites and balconies overlooking the harbor. It was originally built as a monastery in the Middle Ages, but today looks more like a film set from the Jazz Age. And unless money is no object, this is the kind of place you'll probably want to save for that special occasion.
Welcome to Splendido, sir. Welcome.
This is the type of pasta which is made by hand. Every piece is made by hand.
One by one.
While the food here may unnerve the calorie conscious, when visiting Italy, eating is at least half the fun.
These are good.
I figure vacation is time to live it up.
And these are basically very good wines which go with.
My Italian friend Roberto's favorite eatery is Restaurant Rosa, a few miles from Portofino in the town of Camoli.
These are trofie al pesto, they call them.
In this country, sharing a meal is nearly sacred for bonding with others. Roberto, dinner takes a little longer in Italy, doesn't it, than most countries?
It does, but it's fun, I believe, don't you? It's here you have time to speak with people you have in front of you between one dish and the other, and you can joke with people. It's a way of getting to know somebody, and it's very nice.
And it's Italian law. You have to have at least 3 courses, right?
Absolutely, maybe 4. Maybe
4 or 5 is better, but 3 is basic minimum.
Basic minimum.
Every part of Italy has its regional specialties. Here, locals recommend the pesto, made with Parmesan, pine nuts, olive oil, and basil fresh from the garden. They're right, it's utterly delectable. Naturally, I always save room for dessert. On a quest for even more remote and romantic retreats, we're heading south to Cinque Terre. Cinque Terre means 5 lands. In this case, it's a string of 5 fishing villages clinging to cliffs, nearly hidden between the mountains and the sea. If you're yearning for pure, glorious scenery and serious relaxation, this is just the place. Cinque Terre stretches along a 15-mile fantasy of coastline. The cliffs are like giant staircases of terraced vineyards, and the olive groves seem endless. Ask any local, and they'll tell you the best olive oil in Italy comes from these hills. Years ago, the towns of the Cinque Terre could be reached only by donkey or boat. A commuter train now serves all of the villages, and the old donkey paths have become a hiker's paradise. The northernmost village, Monte Rosa al Mare, is the only one easily accessible by car. Vehicles are restricted, but taxis are allowed. Monte Rosa is more touristed than the other towns, so there are plenty of hotels and restaurants. A medieval tower divides the town into new and old sections. The venerable parish church wears its rose window with pride. It was considered a status symbol in the Middle Ages for a town to be able to afford a rose window. And the Cinque Terre saw its share of prosperity before being overshadowed by trading bigwigs like Genoa and Pisa. While officially autonomous, the region was for centuries dominated by Genoa, with occasional incursions by Pisa. The Cinque Terre doesn't offer the expansive beaches that are de rigueur for big resort areas. But that's just as well. It keeps this coastline from getting overdeveloped. While many of the beaches are more pebbly than sandy, they're still great for swimming. The best sandy beach is right here in Monte Rosso. The next Cinque Terre village is about an hour and a half by foot, or a moment's train ride.
I'm opting for the train. You can buy a special ticket that allows unlimited daily travel between all 5 towns. Since they're only a few minutes apart, that can make sense. If time's a factor, you can easily see all 5 villages in one day. If you're not in a hurry, maybe linger in one or two.
The towns of the Cinque Terre are so similar it may be hard to keep them apart. But each has a personality and charm all its own. Once you get to know them, you'll never want to leave. Vernazza is a fairy tale of a town. It sits on a tiny strip of coastline with sheer cliffs as a backdrop. Blessed with a rocky spit, Vernazza is the only one of the 5 towns with a real port. The old tower that guards the town remains from days when Turks and pirates terrorized this coast. The pirates sometimes even kidnapped residents and sold them into slavery in the east. You can climb the steep tower steps to scout for marauding ships that may still be lurking in these waters. Unlike the other Cinque Terre towns that hug the shore, Cornelia is perched high on a hillside with a stretch of rocky beach far below. The town is home to about 250 people. In the evening, everyone gathers in the square to gossip about the day's activities and chat with passersby. The road from Cornelia to Manarola hosts the region's wine co-op.
What I'd like is a dry red.
Not surprisingly, Cinque Terre is famous for its wine. We are in Italy, after all.
What would you recommend?
Ever since Roman times, this area has been the center of Cinque Terre winemaking. The wine jug from Cornelia was even found among the ruins at Pompeii. Around these parts, locals are particularly proud of the sweet white wine.
Ciacerta, how do you pronounce that?
That's wine.
The dessert.
Shakita.
It's made only with grapes grown near the sea. In old days, this wine was used as a medicine or brought out to celebrate a wedding or birth. Today it's prized as a dessert wine. Down the coast from Cornelia, Manarola is a striking sight. This quintessential fishing village clings like a barnacle to its dark rock. Each morning, fishermen set out in colorful, varnished boats, just as their ancestors have for centuries. Later, lucky diners reap the rewards of the day's catch.
I'm ready for a little hike. And the most popular trail is this 20-minute stretch that links the villages of Manarola and Rio Maggiore. It's called the Via delle More, or Walk of Love.
No wonder this is the Trail of Love. All around, flowers blossom in riotous color. For hundreds of years, the Riviera has been Italy's florist shop. As early as the 16th century, nobility from other regions ordered their fresh bouquets from here. You can actually walk between all of the Cinque Terre towns in about 5 hours. Time to get out the cameras. Rio Maggiore puts the picture in picturesque. It's a beehive of peeling pastel houses and lively cafes rimmed by a shimmering beach.
Centro di Osservazioni Naturalistiche. I wonder if that means nudist beach in Italian.
According to tradition, the village was founded in the 8th century by a group of Greek refugees who were fleeing religious persecution. The town still welcomes those seeking refuge. If you're interested in renting a room in a private home, you'll find lots of options here. When you're ready for a snack, follow your nose to a local bakery loaded with temptations. The focaccia al formaggio, a pizza like bread with cheese, is perfecto.
See? What did I tell you? You spend a few days here, and you'll want to call in sick forever. But if we're going to see everything, we've got to get moving.
We have one more stop on our trip, and this one needs no introduction. The Leaning Tower of Pisa is probably the most recognizable monument this side of the Eiffel Tower. It's actually one of 3 grand structures in Pisa's Field of Miracles. Pisa was a maritime powerhouse in the Middle Ages, and like the other affluent Italian towns of the time, it poured money into architectural and religious wonders. The tower began to lean after only 3 stories had been built, and the project was suspended. It turned out that the foundation wasn't solid rock, but water-soaked clay. Still, a century later, the 8-story marble tower was completed. While there are ongoing efforts to stabilize it, its tilt continues to increase about 1 millimeter a year. It was designed as a bell tower for the Duomo, a very influential building in its day. The distinctive Romanesque style with dark and light stripes and blind arches was imitated across Italy. The interior of the Duomo is haunting in its majesty. The wealth of decoration was a perk offered by Pisa's former domination of this corner of the Mediterranean. When Pisa's powerful fleet drove the Muslim Turks from Sicily, they captured a treasure trove of riches for their trouble. They decided to invest this fortune in a cathedral that would stand as a symbol of the victory of Christianity over Islam. Interestingly enough, much of the decor is obviously of Islamic extraction. Many visitors to Pisa's famous tower overlook the striking indoor cemetery next to the Duomo. Legend holds that during the Crusades, 10 Pisan ships carried soil from Calvary in the Holy Land and laid it here in the cemetery. The frescoes that adorned the walls of the cemetery were among the largest in Europe before being damaged by fire in World War II. This image, called the Triumph of Death, gave a typically medieval warning to beware the temptations of daily life. Massive chains that hang on the wall were once used to close off access to Pisa's harbor.
These chains closed the entrance to the port of Pisa in the Middle Ages. Then when the Genoese defeated the Romans, they took away the chains and gave carpentry to Florence, their ally. Then many centuries later, 2 cities returned the chains to Pisa.
The nearby baptistry is like an enormous Romanesque crown topped with lacy Gothic gables and statuary. It's most famous for its beautiful hexagonal pulpit by sculptor Niccolo Pisano. It rests on the backs of 3 marble lions. Some claim that the Renaissance really started here with Pisano's work. This naked Hercules represented a move away from the medieval sensibility and a return to the classics. And the acoustics in here are, well, heavenly.
Pisa's glory days ended when it was outmuscled by its rivals, Genoa and Florence. Eventually its rivers silted up. Yet its leaning tower remains, a testament to the fragility yet determination of human achievement. Thanks for joining us as we tour Genoa and the Italian Riviera.
Videos of Smart Travels Europe with Rudy Maxa are available for $24.95 each plus shipping. To order the 60-minute 2-program tape on Venice and the Italian Riviera, or any other tape, call 800-866-7425. Rudy's handy companion book, smarttravels.tv, is $16.95. Please have a credit card ready and call 800-866-7425. On the web, it's smarttravels.tv.